Apple iPhone time. If you'll rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll open the meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's see our feature speakers here in the room. Hey, Janet, have you heard from Kenton and Lori? Okay, just curious. Make it a real short meeting if they...
Yeah, good.
Okay. All right, good morning. Welcome to the November meeting of the Clinton County Council. We'll jump right into our agenda, beginning with our normal administrative task. We have two sets of meeting minutes from October, the regular meeting on October the 10th, and then our special meeting on the 27th. Mark's sort of our normal scribe who has reviewed all of the meeting minutes, but I think this month Jeff has taken on that task, and I guess I would ask if you have any amendments or changes.
No, not for October 10th. I didn't see any problems, so I would say we could approve those.
October 27th was a very short meeting, basically opening it up, addressing the resolution to amend the property tax allocation credits and voting and closing the meeting, so very, very brief. So I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes for the 10th and the 27th.
So moved.
I have a motion by Carol to approve those minutes.
Second.
A second by Mike. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0.
And I'm abstaining from
From
27th.
So am I,
27th.
Alan.
Yeah,
Well, then,
We're gonna have to do them twice.
let me back up.
yeah.
Strike that from the record, if you would, Madam Secretary. Let's vote on those one at a time. Let's do the October 10th meeting first. I'll entertain a motion to approve October 10th.
So moved.
I have a motion by Carol. I think I'm going to give Mike that second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0 for the 10th. Now, for the 27th, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Carol. Do I have a second for that one? Mike, with that second, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0 with 2 abstentions.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me of that there. Brett's not able to be with us today for his regular community corrections report. We'll catch up with Brett next month, but we do have Nancy with us for the probation report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a big 0 for last month. Yay.
Yay.
That's nice.
To keep that running for the rest of the year, that'd be nice. We had a referral last week or the week before on a kid from, he was from Howard County. He'll be 18 December 1st. But his mom dropped him off in Mulberry, and I think he was gonna blow up Clinton Prairie. But he left all his bomb and stuff and his guns in Howard County. So we're trying to get all those charges moved back to Howard County. So, kind of
Okay.
scary,
Yeah, it is.
but that's what we're dealing with right now.
Wow.
So, a lot of mental health kids that we're dealing with and trying to push them back into the mental health system. Another update is my office manager moved from full-time to part-time as needed. She'd been there for 16 years. She has another job working from home for an online school just for their school hours. So I was kind of sad to lose her full-time. But since we went to our new case management system, some of the office work has, all our forms are online, so I think the office girls were getting a little bit bored. So I took the administrative assistant and bumped her up to office manager, and she's taking on most of Tony's duties. So that should be coming through either this month or next month.
Okay.
So if you see that, that's why. So Tony will still be employed part-time as needed, and Alicia will be bumped up to office manager and
Okay.
with a raise, but she'll be taking on most of Tony's duties.
Okay, I appreciate the heads up.
Okay, and both of their salaries come out of user fees.
Okay,
So are there any questions?
No.
sounds like a good transition,
Yeah.
Yeah.
A sad one, but
but done as smoothly as you could.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
Okay. Moves us on to the new business portion of the agenda where we have Beth Keeney with us today to talk about a request for some movement of funds.
Good morning. I'm
Good
Beth-
morning.
Beth Keeney, the recorder. We have been informed at a conference and at another, at our recorders conference and AIC, that this was like a one-time opportunity, IC code, that we could move a request if the council and the financial bodies decide it was okay, to move money from the elected officials training fund into the perpetuation fund, perpetuation of records. And so that's something that we put, every document gets recorded, we collect $1 and it goes into that. So it's been building up for a few years. So it has, a little over $45,000, and we wanted to know if we could, move everything, but like maybe 5,000 out of it with, we're always depositing every month more money, and just bring that money into our recorder perpetuation fund, and where we can use it for the future. And it is like a one-time, it has to be done by
Okay.
December 31st of this year.
Well, I'll open the floor to any comments or questions from the council.
Well, if it's moved to that fund, what kind of things would you use it for? Would you use it like to buy equipment or?
Some would be equipment, yes, and there's the book, to maintain the books. Every year, we have a gentleman come and he does few book repairs, just so we can, protect our history, and those old books are just so precious, we need to maintain those. We've got equipment that's older. I mean, I think it was back in 2015, the Recorders Fund, we purchased all the computers that we have in our office and the printers, so that ours have not been replaced since 2015. We've got one scanner that the company cannot get parts for anymore. There's no one to work on it, so when it goes, you cringe every time somebody turns it on. But anyway, we've got some older equipment, and so that's what we would use it for. It's supposed to be used to maintain the, and then God forbid a disaster or anything got damaged.
I think this is a wonderful opportunity, and I appreciate you bringing it to us, because I was not even aware of that opportunity. And I think back to a little over a year ago, when we use the perpetuation fund, it tends to be for big ticket items. And the last one that we used it on, if you recall, was the $70,000 for the scanning that we did in the recorder's office prior to the big scanning contract. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to kind of bolster that fund back up. It's, as you indicated, we're leaving an amount in there for any elected officials that need to access that money for training, and is continually refilling the pot. So I would be very much in favor of making this transfer.
And that fund has not been used a whole lot. In fact, I'm using it for the first time this year.
Right. I
Except
think we
for
have a
when
couple
I
today.
became the recorder, there's a newly elected official training, and it came out of there. So it really isn't used that much.
Thank you for the information. I appreciate it.
Joe's good.
Joe? Question?
I'll make a motion.
Or you're making the motion? Motion to
Okay,
approve
very
the
good.
transfer? Okay, so
Second.
I have a motion with Joe, and is that a second, Jeff?
Yes.
Second by Jeff, that we approve the recorder's request to transfer those funds to the recorder's perpetuation fund. Any other questions or comments before doing so? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you for the information and the request.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, I see Kent and Lori snuck in there, and we're ready for them now, the big reveal. Just to set the stage quickly for those who maybe are watching online or are in the room that weren't aware of the prior history, but earlier this year, the council engaged Wagner, Irwin, and Shield to conduct a comprehensive salary study, job description review, some items that hadn't been done in quite some time. And so that, today, we're going to get the results of, or at least the initial results of that report for our consideration. And as we discussed during budget time, this will be sort of the beginning, this really is the beginning of the 25 budget cycle, because we're going to have some work to do beyond our regular process for this coming year as we review job descriptions and salaries. So Kent, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Alan. I'm here today with Lori Seeland of our firm, and as you stated, we've been working for some time on getting this job classification compensation project underway and completed. We provided you today with a folder that contains a summary report of this project, along with spreadsheets that we'll be going through by job category that will show you the relationship of your jobs to the external market by job category. But I thought I'd just highlight the report first, as it kind of sets the basis for what you're going to see in the spreadsheets. As you mentioned, we were engaged to conduct this project for the council, which involved preparing new job descriptions for all the positions in the county, and we did that through the use of job questionnaires that were circulated to all the elected officials and department heads. Employees completed those questionnaires, returned them to us. We prepared draft descriptions that returned to them, and then finally a final description was prepared after those revisions were made by the elected officials and department heads. So that process has been ongoing, and it's important that the job description be accurate and reliable for job classification purposes, because the whole system's really built upon having those descriptions that describe the work, have the qualifications, have the responsibility sections, and all the support documentation that's part of it goes into that job description. So those descriptions were, signed off on by the questionnaires were signed off on, then the drafts were signed off on, and we want to make sure that we were getting that input from the elected officials and department heads. We also, as an extension of that, interviewed department heads either in person or by phone to go over the organizational structure of their individual departments, go over the jobs, the job titling, and how the jobs, how the people in those jobs reported to supervisors, how the relationships were between all the positions within each department. So we also obtained that kind of organizational background information as a part of the project. We looked at, and I'll talk about a little more depth, the Fair Labor Standards Act, which sets the rules for jobs that are to be paid overtime or comp time under the wage and hour laws. So on each job description, there will appear FLSA status, and it will say exempt or non-exempt. Exempt positions are paid on a salary basis, and under the FLSA, they're not required to receive overtime or comp time, whereas non-exempt positions, whether they're paid on a salary basis or hourly, are required to receive overtime for all time worked over 40 in a work week. The importance of that is to make sure that we have the job description documenting what the job is in terms of meeting the test under FLSA as to whether it can be exempt or not. And the FLSA sets out specific duties tests to do that, excuse me, which we looked at to make that recommendation. Once all the job descriptions were prepared, we then used what's called the factor evaluation system to assign factor points to each position by job category. Once that was done, then an internal comparison was made of like jobs within each category to identify any internal pay inequities within your current system. And the last piece was to conduct an external market analysis of those jobs to the external market by job category. We also did a snapshot benefits survey of all the jobs to the external market. So there's a number of pieces that were put in place and collectively form this study. On page 1 there at the bottom, we've just restated what the Indiana Code sets out as the responsibility of the county council, and that being fixing the number of employees, deputies, and employees, describing and classifying positions and services, adopting schedules of compensation, and hiring contracting persons to assist in the development of those pay schedules. You've done all those things, and as independent consultants, we have looked at your system, and this is the end result of that work. And it's solely council's responsibility to set the salaries, to set the staff numbers for all county positions that are paid from any county funds. So that being said, the next page, we've summarized the description of what this factor evaluation system is. And I want to point out that this system was developed by the Department of Labor. It's not proprietary to a consultant or to any individual. It was installed by Governor Bowen way back when for all the state jobs in Indiana. The state of Indiana has been using the system since he was in office. It's been updated, it's been refined, it's been adapted for use, and it's still in place today. Most cities, most counties that have classified their jobs have likewise followed that same system and have installed it. And I know that having been working in this area since 1979, we've installed this in at least 50 Indiana counties, that many cities. So it's widely used amongst the various local units of government. And for that reason, again, it's a public sector system, and there's built-in comparability to other public employers that use the system. So I think that's one of the advantages of having the system, outside of the fact that under this system, we only compare like jobs with one another. So you can't compare the deputy recorder's position to the truck driver at the highway department. They're in two different categories. Correction officers in the jail are in a category that you can't compare to the county engineer. So you'll see as we walk through this how that is organized. So, and again, summarizing, collecting job information, classifying the positions, doing the wage analysis, and here we've got the FES job descriptions were prepared for all the positions, but for the sheriff merit deputy jobs that are not included in this project, and all other jobs and all other departments did participate. Every description has what's called a set of job requirements. There's a list of duties, a set of job requirements. Those job requirements are what's required in order to perform the work, along with, excuse me, skills and knowledges, the difficulty of work, responsibility, personal work relationships, physical effort, work environment. Those are all factors that are part of the system that are given weight as they are point factor. Besides setting compensation schedules, these descriptions are also important to look at for making accommodations under the Americans with Disabilities Act, use in recruitment and hiring, performance evaluations, any disciplinary matters. So the descriptions themselves have a lot of utility other than just setting pay. The job categories start on the bottom of page 3 over to 4. One group is called computer office machine operation technician jobs. These jobs normally require high school education or above. There are support positions. These jobs are usually performed in office settings, and examples of those jobs are going to be clerks in the various office, administrative assistants, paralegals, office managers, court reporters fit within this group of what we call common positions. Another category involves labor, trades, and crafts jobs. Most of these jobs are concentrated in the highway department. These include, besides truck drivers, custodians, maintenance people, groundskeepers, operators, and foremen. Another group is the professional, administrative, and technological group. Typically, these jobs require a degree or equivalent training and experience. These are supervisors or people applying a professional knowledge attained through a professional license or schooling to the position. Some of the jobs here are going to be emergency management, director, veteran services, planning, administrator. Those jobs that are working at the department head level are going to be in what we call the PAT jobs. Finally, we've got the merit whole positions, which is law enforcement. This would be the police. Then we have, which again, we don't have job descriptions on the merit officers, but that's where they would fit. There's a subsection of whole positions that are civilian, and these positions will include the courthouse security, the correction officers, the dispatchers, field officers, assistant jail commander, those civilian protective occupation law enforcement positions. And then finally, there's a group that's kind of a set-aside, special occupations. They might fit in some of the other categories, but for various reasons, they're set aside as special occupations, like probation officers following the judicial mandated schedule for probation. You've got chief deputies that are politically appointed positions that are set aside as SOs. So determining the valuation of the factoring that's done by category, and each one of those job categories has a set of guide charts with points that are built into the system for assigning points to the position to determine the level of job requirements, difficulty of work, responsibility, personal relationships, and the physical efforts required to perform the job. Findings and recommendations, well, essentially, until now, you've had pay schedules, but it's really not been connected to any kind of a classification system. So this provides council with that tool to use going forward, where we're comparing like jobs to one another, and to be able to identify those that are at a certain level within each classification, so that we have what we would call equal pay for equal work, and then looking at the external market in terms of, again, a council call, what's the relationship that we want to see between our jobs and what's being paid in the external market? What does it take to recruit and retain quality people in these positions? And it may vary from one category to the next based upon the past history, the past pay schedules, sometimes the ability for some department heads to make great arguments where others haven't been able to do that. So it's how persuasive people have been able to be in terms of having a salary set at a certain level. This provides council with a reference point to make those kinds of evaluations and to look at the jobs and not the person. And we emphasize that a lot, because it's easy this is Sarah's job. This is Linda's. Why is Linda being paid more than Sarah? It's the job and not the person. What's the job worth to the county? Not what the person who's holding that position. Now, there's going to be differences in terms of people's performance ability and their experiences. What we're looking at here is to derive a basic base pay for the job, thinking about it when it's not filled. What do we want to pay this position in order to attract and retain people who are qualified to perform the work? And that's kind of the starting point for the classification itself. Now, as we went through these interviews with the elected official department heads, there were a number of people who said, we at one point recognized longevity as a part of our pay system, where the new hire is not paid the same as the person training them. So there is some recognition that people who've been with the county have some additional knowledge they've learned through time that we recognize, but that is a separate piece other than the job. So that's with the person, that's not the job. So if you're going to look or consider that, we would suggest that any longevity program be an add-on, so that it doesn't get rolled into the base salary, where new hires would then potentially inherit longevity that was earned by the previous incumbent. So we've laid out a couple of options for you. They're modest, but I think they do address the issue that was raised by those elected officials and department heads. One option was simply to look at a flat $200 per year of longevity pay based upon seniority, beginning with the first year and ending after 20 years. So there's a schedule there that would show what that add-on would be if you were to adopt that, and what we have costed that out on our pay schedules based upon the hire dates that we've been provided for your workforce. The second option would be staging of the longevity amounts in not earning longevity until the third year of employment. So that's the carrot, kind of be here for 3 years, and we start the program then, and with a $500 increment for people that are here between 3 and 5, and then those breakouts for those years in increments 6 to 10, 11, 15, so on, up to 20, topping out at $3,000 after 25 years of service. But what this does is give some recognition to our long-term employees and some incentive for people to stay with the county and continue in their positions. So as an add-on, that could also be, I think, of value to council in those years where monies are tight. If it's not a part of the base, this is something you could say, okay, this year we can't afford the longevity piece, but maybe next year we can. So it gives you that flexibility to use that longevity, but I would suggest, if you're going to do it, that would be one of your commitments to do going forward, and not go back to another, to eliminate it entirely. But that, again, that is something that was brought to our attention, and we've addressed it in providing you with those options if you want to consider installing some kind of recognition for employee longevity. Chief deputy positions, we've looked these, some jobs are in the county and some of the offices, some consider them political appointees, others do not, but we've looked to establish under the FLSA, personal staff elected official appointed positions are what they're designated. They're not exempt, they're not non-exempt, they are excluded. They're just excluded from the FLSA. So these jobs would fit within that definition. Some counties treat them that way. Consequently, they pay the chief deputies in a relationship to what the elected official salary is. So again, we've laid out that as an option for doing that, and we've also addressed some of the issues that we would identify as calling, pay compression between some of your common jobs and chief deputy or SOs, where the pay is compressed. Sometimes that occurs because whatever the elected official salary is, we're not going to go higher than that. So then the pay gets compressed on those people that are under those elected officials or department heads within the pay structure. The primary finding shows that the 2023 salaries for Clinton County do lag behind the external market. And Lori will be going through those spreadsheets and showing you what that relationship looks like. Departments within the county reportedly are having different established full-time schedules. So we've got anywhere from a 32 to 35 to 40-hour employees in the county. So consequently, our data, we have converted to hours, hourly rates, so that we're if you're working 40, you're going to be paid more than the guy that's working 32, just by the fact you're working 8 hours more a week. And we've also done that with all the external data.
Okay.
So we've taken the external data, so if County Y over here is working 35 hours, we've derived an hourly rate. If they're working 40, we've derived an hourly rate. So it's in hourly rates, so that you can make that, the comparison is such, when you're looking at the external market, that we're really comparing, like, quote, salaries by hourly rates. So again, if you're working more hours, you're going to see your in salary is going to be higher. The classification levels, we've got them listed here on page 9. In Comet, those jobs that are factored 250 points and below are in an A. Those that are between 255 and 350 are in a B. C is 355 to 450. C is 455 and above. What that means is every job description within the Comet group was reviewed using the factor evaluation guide charts for those factors and were assigned points by our factoring team. So every job was factored using those charts, and that's how they ended up within the various levels. So some of the entry-level jobs will be towards the bottom, more the senior-level jobs will be towards the top. The same thing, same principle applies to the labor, trades, and craft jobs, only they have a different set of guide charts, different from the Comet. And labor trades jobs are given credit for physical effort, much more than the other categories. Those are jobs that are, people are working in, provide, physical exertion is a central piece of the job, whereas being a county attorney, they don't get paid for heavy lifting. So each one of these categories is unique in terms of how the guide charts are set up. Same applies to the protective occupations, enforcement of the laws, being around inmates, being in dangerous situations. Those are all factored higher than somebody who's working in an office environment that's really free of most hostile people. Mostly free of hostile people. The world is, I know, it's things are changing. Subset here, we've got the civilian pole EMS jobs, and then we've got the PAT, professional and technological positions. And you'll see the breakout in the levels there. The external market analysis, we've listed all of the counties and city governments, which includes, your neighbors. It includes counties of similar size, and it also includes survey data that we have purchased from national sources. And I want to emphasize that when we look at the data, we're not comparing all the jobs to the highest paid guy. So if Hamilton County were a part of this, we're going to
Right.
cut out the highest 10% and we cut out the lowest 10% of the data. So we're working with the middle 80%. So we don't get into this, well, you can't compare us to them, we're not, we can't compete with them. But we're looking at the middle 80% of the data, and given the number of different entities that were surveyed, there's really a wash here because we've got virtually hundreds of jobs that are included and thousands of employee salaries. So there's a lot of data that is built into this pay line at what we call an external market midpoint, which is kind of this place that hopefully we can go as a reference place. You've got options. You can go below, you can go above. You don't have to use it at all. But that's how the thing is structured, so that this information that has been collected is summary information, and we've taken benchmark job descriptions from Clinton County and taken them from other sources. And again, back to the factor evaluation system, we can factor the jobs on those guide charts so that we have a way to look at like jobs and how they're paid in other entities. So there's a lot of built-in validity and comparability as part of this system. So the external market data will show you that on the spreadsheets. And then finally, one more talk about the FLSA, and that is the Labor Department currently has proposed a new rule to raise the threshold from its current level up to from $35,000 a year to $55,000 in order to be, quote, exempt, which means if it hasn't gone through yet, but if it does go through, that would, even if you met the test, you would have to pay the salary, or it's going to be a non-exempt position subject to overtime. And we identified a couple of positions here in the county that currently are not making the $55,000 that would fall under that rule. So you'd evaluate the likelihood of a lot of overtime or none, or not. And if it is, you may want to raise it up to the level. If not, then you may let it go to non-exempt. But those two jobs are one at the nurse at the county home and the solid waste director would fall under that rule. Again, I think there's a good likelihood it's going to happen sometime in early 2024, but right now it's still a proposal. Finally, as I mentioned, we have a snapshot benefit survey that we've looked at other municipalities in terms of comparative data on things like insurance and employee contribution, some of the paid leave, some of the terms that we use in this process: internal pay equity being equal amongst your current pay schedule, external pay equity being the external market, performance pay being an add-on, longevity pay I've discussed, And then there may be some jobs that would have some kind of a technical pay add-on. Typically, that's in law enforcement type work. So, in concluding, this is the information that we've got to share with you. And Lori will go through these categories and the spreadsheets. And then finally, once all said and done, we're going to be providing council with a maintenance program so that going forward, you'll be able to maintain the system. So when there's new jobs added, they're classified in the same manner that these were in the original classification, that there's a process for jobs to be reviewed, if they're changing, if there's restructuring within an office or department, that there's a process to go through there so that we're not just shooting from the hip each time there's a change in a description, and that you have a method to do that where you're looking at them periodically, but it's not what we call Chinese water torture, where it's month after month after month, the same job, we change a couple words, these jobs need to be set as the base descriptions so that future changes have something to base those decisions on. So memorializing the job descriptions becomes important, and establishing them as the base so that whenever they change, you have that as a reference point going forward. We can talk about that at a later date, but we're here to assist you in any of that. We've listed those set of 7 items that we normally are involved at some degree with our county clients once the classifications are adopted. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lori and let her review these spreadsheets.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I think the first document in your folder on the spreadsheets was in the upper left-hand corner says Comet, Computer Office Machine Operation. That's the one. So most of the spreadsheets are set up in the same format. So I'll just use this one to walk you through what you've got laid out in front of you. So on the far left side, it tells you what department you're in. And this is where you're going to see that after we factored each of these positions, we've classified them. So now you're going to see that those positions are arranged in their classification. So Comet A's have a lot of part-time position in them. Those are the ones that factored at 250 factor points and below. So you have the department, then the job title, the hire date of the incumbent as was provided by the county. We calculated a years of service so that we have that for the longevity. We then put in the 2023 salary, so their current salary for this year, and established an hourly rate based on the annual work hours. And then you also have the FLSA status recommendation. The second block towards the center of the page has the internal analysis, so that is what you are currently paying your position.
Can I interrupt real
Sure.
quick before you move on? You just said the FLSA status recommendation, that there's not a recommendation there. I mean, it is or it isn't, correct? I mean, there,
Right, but some of your positions, for example, like Kent had talked about your chief deputy, some are considered, some are being allowed to receive overtime, comp time. They're being treated as non-exempt. So what you have on the spreadsheets now is what we're saying the FLSA status should be.
Should be.
okay,
Should be.
And that will correlate with what's written on the job descriptions now,
okay,
okay? And what's in the policy handbook.
okay.
So the internal analysis is based on what you are currently paying your employees based on the classification. So for example, in Comet A's, your internal base hourly rate should be $15,778 an hour. And then we calculated that annual salary that positions in Comet A should be paid at to have that internal equity. Okay. The next section brings in that external market. So we've established an external midpoint hourly rate. we created an external midpoint salary based on the hours that your employees are working in that position. So for comment A's, that external midpoint hourly rate is $17.83 per hour. And then we had calculated that external midpoint salary. Your external low hourly rate is 10% below that. 10% below the external midpoint. And your external high is 10% above the external midpoint. So that gives you a range to set based on where council wants to be. Are you looking at being right with the midpoint? Do you want to, be a trendsetter and pay a little higher? Or, some counties we have say, we can't get to the midpoint right yet, so we focus on that low. The next section is then your cost analysis on how to get each one of those positions. Your first one is, what would it cost per position to get to the internal base? Just to adjust that internally, what we're paying those positions. Your next column is the cost to get to the external low, and so on. The external midpoint, the external high. And then on the far right, those longevity options as defined in the report. How much would each employee be receiving on longevity based on option number 1, which was the 200 per year, and then option 2, which was that range that we established. Okay, so that is developed for each employee in each position.
Wow.
If you go to the bottom of the second page of the spreadsheet, that gives you the total analysis. So just for your comment positions, to get all of the positions to the internal base for 2023 rates would be $67,845, which is a 3.54% increase. To get to the external low would be a 1.22% increase. External midpoint, 7.24% increase. And to the external high would be a 15.82% increase. Okay?
Sorry.
Questions on how it's formatted or laid out?
Yes, going back to Alan's questions about the non-exempt status, that column is what's in our handbook now.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Okay, the next one is your labor, trades, and crafts.
Can I interrupt? I have another
Uh-huh.
question. Maybe this isn't the appropriate time, but you've mentioned that in the survey or in the analysis, there was some review done of benefits. And I guess my question is how do we get to the point where we attempt to quantify? There's going to have to be a trade-off because in all of these numbers, we're not creating any additional revenue.
Right.
And so if we increase the salaries hundreds of thousands of dollars without creating offsetting revenues, it's coming from somewhere.
Right.
And that somewhere may be that we make the employees pay more for their health insurance or they, all of these other, is there any attempt in these numbers to quantify the value of the benefits?
So we're looking at the hourly base rate pay only in the
Okay.
spreadsheet. I think that the very last document you have in the folder is a benefits survey snapshot.
Okay.
So that will give you some additional, it tells you of all the municipalities that we used for the salaries, we also gathered benefits from them if they're willing to provide it to us. So it tells you the number of paid time off, how many days the employees are allowed to cap, how many paid holidays they receive, whether or not they receive longevity, and if the elected officials receive longevity. And again, this is just based on when we were contacting those counties, requesting the salary information, we asked them those questions. That some are more willing to provide that information to us than others. And then the bottom of that page talks about the health insurance contributions also, so you have that data to look at.
Okay.
Okay?
I see.
Your next spreadsheet is your labor, trades, and crafts. Again, these are custodians, maintenance, groundskeepers, and highway people generally. The setup is exactly the same. So down on the bottom for the cost analysis, for all labor, trades, and crafts positions, to go to the internal midpoint, 4.69%. External low is a 2.54% increase. External midpoint is 10.55%. External high is 20.31%. Your next page is your civilian polls. Again, it's the trend. These civilian poll positions tend to be the ones that we're seeing the biggest increases in, these protective occupation type positions. For the civilian polls, this page does not include your EMS. This is basically focused on community corrections, dispatch, jail, and prosecuting attorney. Internal midpoint is 6.11%. External low is 2.69%. External midpoint is 11.63%. And external high is 27.71%. We provided a separate chart for your EMS positions. The cost to the external low for your EMS positions is 3.95%. External midpoint is 10.51%. And external high is 20.7%. Your next spreadsheet should be your professional, administrative, and technological, your PATs, which are typically your supervisors, your department heads, those type of positions. Cost to the internal midpoint for them is 3.42%. To the external low is 2.41%. To the midpoint is 7.37%.
What?
High is 13.72%.
Push the wrong button. What?
Turn it off, Joe.
Joseph.
Your next
Joe?
spreadsheet is your special occupations. This is divided up into 5 separate charts. The very top of the page, we're focusing on the chief deputies or first deputies. Again, these are considered excluded positions. There's 2 different common ways to set the salaries for these first deputies. The first one is either setting it at 85% of the elected official. So what we gave you was, 80% of the elected official. What we gave you was 80% of the elected official's external average and what it would cost to get to that. And then we also did a run on the, what is the actual external midpoint of these first deputies currently, and what would it cost to get to that. I didn't run a total analysis or a percentage because of not knowing which one you were going to go to. The second chart is your probation officers, and as we know, that is set by the judicial conference minimum salary schedule. So, of course, our recommendation would be to continue on following that standard. The next chart is for your deputy coroners. And I gathered the data and then just gave you a external average per run because it's all over the board. The next one down is our special occupations because of whether it's a appointed position such as the jail commander or the jail matron or the health officer because of it being a physician position. So I gave These are direct job match to the external market. So the external market for a health officer, part-time health officer, is 21,315. And then I calculated the cost to get to that midpoint. And did the same with the jail commander and the jail matron. What is the external midpoint and what would be the cost to get to those? And the bottom chart is for your deputy prosecutors. Again, it set an external midpoint salary and gave you an external range going down 10%, up 10%. So positions on the SOs are direct job match. Okay. Your last chart is your elected officials chart. This is just 100% data. 2023 salary information from the salary ordinances provided by these counties. Across the top gives Clinton counties, and then underneath just lists each county's elected official. And then I gave you an average for each of those. That's all your charts.
You know the expression "drinking out of a fire hose"? I think it's appropriate here.
Yes.
It's a lot of information, good information.
A lot of
information.
Yeah.
Great information.
You put in there in one of your pages that you, or in the end of the report, that you offer services to help continue guiding as we move to the implementation phase. We've moved beyond the data gathering and moved to implementation. I think we'll certainly need that assistance. My first question is, presumably this report or these numbers would also be provided to the department heads then, subsequent to this, or is that our responsibility to
That's yours.
distribute?
Yeah,
Okay.
we provide to you, you decide who else to provide it to.
Okay, okay. I envision us having some working meetings, we've got a lot of work to do.
We did provide to Cecily when we got here, all new job descriptions, a new binder, a new flash drive, all that has been delivered, so,
It's been delivered to
to the auditor's office, yeah. For her to distribute as needed.
Well, and in the past, we have just received, and you acknowledged a pay survey. So the last thing that you showed us of all the counties and everything,
It's closest.
we're right there. So, I mean, that's the thing that brings, I'm glad this was the last one, because it kind of, my blood pressure has kind of come down a little bit. Because it's kind of like, okay, this seems like it's easier to work with, because that's what we've worked with.
Right.
Yeah.
I had that sense too, Jeff. It felt like we've admittedly been going by the seat of our pants here a little bit, but when you look in the final analysis,
Yeah.
I think we've done a fairly good
Yeah.
job. We're not terribly far off on
Right.
the majority of positions.
I think the most difficult part for Clinton County is all the different hours worked. Because in order to get a really good feel for it, we have to calculate just those hourly rates.
Right, right.
You know, you've got people working 32 hours, people working 40 hours. It makes it a little harder to establish what are we working and what are we getting, kind of.
I would appreciate advice or opinion on how we better communicate to the employees the value of their health insurance benefit. I mean, even you look on the chart, it's a fantastic benefit that we provide, but it's very hard to quantify.
Yeah, that's
And-
one of those,
I mean, it isn't hard to quantify. There's dollars and cents right here, but it's not visible.
right.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's one of those hidden paychecks.
Yes, it's a hidden
When we're-
paycheck, right.
When we're thinking about what I make as an employee, we're not thinking about how many holidays do I get, how many vacation days do I get, how much is my health insurance, that sort of thing. They're looking at how much is that paycheck at the end of the week, kind of thing. So as department heads, elected officials, when we're bringing people in, onboarding, that's one of the important things to say, but look, remember, we also have all these other benefits coming with it.
That seems to be like, that's going to be difficult to explain, because we could go to the midpoint of your salary recommendations and everybody would get most likely a nice raise. And then I could say, we're gonna go to the midpoint of the benefits plan and we're gonna take it all back and everybody's gonna be up in arms. And it's just like, that's difficult to,
No,
how we communicate all that is going to be difficult.
Absolutely. And I'm glad it's you, not me.
Stephen,
Not everybody has health insurance.
good
here,
point.
And so if
Good
we
point.
did
Good
a
point.
pay raise for everybody, everybody benefits from that, but then if we benefit requirements. Impact of the other 50%.
So you're making it more complex already.
Thank you, Stephen, for pointing that out.
Yeah, but that's a great point. But at some point, when you're looking at it from that big old thick budget book, and you've got a certain amount of revenue that we got to get down below,
We got work to do. Thank you. Great
well, the
information.
low end of the
Very easy to,
recommendation
very
is
easy to understand.
308,000.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
okay?
Yeah.
But if you, when we talk about that, we probably would move forward with a 4% raise next year or something. I mean, so there's some of that built into the baseline that we were going to work with anyway. It would just be how we structure it different, so.
And I go,
Going forward, it doesn't have to be such a huge project.
right,
You know,
right.
in a year or in 2 years, however often council
We
wants
just
it.
look
I
to-
can do a snapshot and tell you, Comet A should raise 3.2%. Comet B should raise 2.4%, and more of a percentage that you can then go through. You know, we don't have to continue to look at every single position.
When you've worked with other clients and you get those rare occasions when a position is above the average, do counties go backwards, or do they somehow put a freeze on those until such time that the averages catch up, or how does that work?
Nobody's pay gets cut.
That's what I figured, and I don't think that's right. I would agree with that.
Yeah, normally the policy is, once the job becomes vacant, then the salary comes back down into the schedule where it
Should be.
comparatively should be. So the next guy doesn't inherit that higher salary, but you could also say it's frozen until the charts catch up with the position, or whoever's in that position is going to get a lesser pay adjustment than people below. But actually, it's really not the fault of the employee who's holding the position.
Right.
Oftentimes, it's someone who's been here a while and has enjoyed some longevity that's really kind of built in to attain that higher amount. So, no, we don't recommend anyone be cut, but council can adopt a policy in terms of how you want to treat those positions going forward. My only caution is that once we come to some understanding of what the rule is, that you apply it fairly and equally, and we not pick and choose.
Well, it needs to be put on paper, and that's one of the problems we have
That-
now is there's nothing on paper.
That's one of the things that, where I think I've earned a couple of these blonde hairs, where council has made exceptions in certain cases and have not in other cases that are very similar. So just depending upon how well the argument's made, believe me, I was a department head in city government in a previous life. And all of our money in our department was federal dollars. And I would appear before our city council and say, why in the world do you guys care? The government says we can pay these jobs X. Well, you're not going to be paying your administrative assistant more than the mayor's. Why? She's better. Back to the person.
Yeah.
But, it's not the source of the income, but I think sometimes councils are more attuned or receptive. It's not coming out of the general fund, so let them do what they want to do with it. Whereas those jobs that don't have that ability, that don't have extra money to use, those people don't have that benefit of doing it. So I know it should be attentive to what's in that general fund, but at the same time, I think we have to look at jobs across the board, regardless of the funding source and how we treat them.
Well, I think with the jobs war that's happening, this is exactly what we should be seeing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you ready today to talk about what maintaining your information every year would cost, or is that a different meeting, or?
I can tell you, we do it in a couple of ways. One is on just a retainer basis. I
Yeah.
don't think we want to probably do that. The other's just hourly as things come to us, and we bill you hourly like we have with the commissioners on the policies. So we have that, we have a general contract right now with the county to do those things, but
Very good. Well, thank you.
I want to ask if anybody wants to ask any questions, but that's a lot to receive, and I feel like we accomplished what Kent and Lori called me, and we had a discussion about, what do you want to accomplish at this meeting today? And we kind of came up with this. We wanted to present the report, start the discussion, realizing this is going to be a long-term, multiple meeting. I hesitate to say, I don't even really think this is a committee thing. I think this is a full working group. We're going to have work sessions to deal with this, and we're going to have to start in the first quarter of the year to have the guidance in place that we're going to have to give to the department heads to make the June budgets. So, the budget year really is going to start very quickly when the calendar turns. So,
I think we all need time to absorb it on our own for a while and create our questions and then come together.
I did have one.
okay.
So the two positions that you were talking about, non-exempt and exempt, so those are two that are exempt now, but they're under, or they're over the threshold.
they're under the
They're,
55.
okay, they're under the 55.
So
Okay.
they meet the exempt now at 35, but if that threshold goes up to 55, they will no longer meet it. So they're between 35 and 55. So
Okay.
that's what we have to decide what we're going to do with them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't have to raise the salary, but we would be obligated to overtime at that
Yeah.
To
point.
change it.
Yeah.
And that, really not, two out of the whole workforce is not
pretty good.
bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
I think it was about 4 years ago, there was a similar proposal in a lot of these counties. We were seeing 30, 40 jobs, and I know City of Fort Wayne had over 100 positions they had to look at for that proposal, so.
The new job descriptions, do they have to be approved?
Yes.
Is that a commissioner or a council?
I think, preferably both,
Okay,
but ultimately, I think it is council's responsibility to set the classifications, and the classifications are based upon the job descriptions. And I think personally, I think that's yours.
so step one would have to necessarily be reviewing and approving the job descriptions and the classifications,
Right.
correct?
So those are in the auditor's office now, but shouldn't be distributed. They're just for us to see.
The descriptions,
Yeah, job description.
I think I'd go ahead, they're being used already. I would go ahead and use them. But again, I think just to put an official stamp, these are the descriptions. Again, they've been through that process.
Okay.
And I think you want to get to the point where, they're all dated too. So when they change in the future, they'll have a new revision
Okay.
date. So we'll be able to track them.
So we would likely, if I'm just trying to think this through, and I'll wrap it up because I don't want to do a lot of brainstorming, here and hold everybody to the meeting, but we would want to have an ordinance or a resolution of some kind that would implement the factor evaluation system. Is that right? Right.
Yes.
Factor evaluation system, and as part of that, that would include the job classification, which would be based on the job descriptions, and all of that would get approved, sort of as a policy,
And the maintenance program.
and the maintenance
Get
program.
those three things.
So that's really where we begin.
Yep.
Right.
And we've got templates we can furnish you with
Okay.
to do that.
One last, so the longevity pay, if we did have that, would that be added onto the salary in this at all, or no? That's
Not to the
not-
base.
Not to the base.
not to the base, right?
Typically,
Yes.
it is a payout at one time during the year.
Okay,
So Christmas time, and
yeah.
people can see it, feel it. Rolling it into the base, you don't feel it, you don't see it.
So
Just
going down that's never a part of the survey, longevity pay?
No.
No.
Good question. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we got sideways trying longevity pay a generation ago, is that it just got built into those bases, and you're still seeing the remnants of some of that on some of those positions.
Now,
Yeah. Okay.
just amnesia sets in, things get
No, you're
lost.
right. Yeah.
It just, you need to have it so it's, the next council,
Right.
Yeah.
they'll understand as well. But again, as you move forward, you have questions, we're available, and this is a place to start. And there's a lot of work, and I want to thank the department heads and elected officials for all the participation. And we found that it's been, very positive, and everyone's forthcoming and wanted the project to occur, so.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, both today and in your work on putting all of this information together. I'm sure we will be talking more in the future.
I'm sure.
Okay,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Ken.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
Lori.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Cecily.
We are not. Jordan wanted me to wait until
Okay,
I have given them out to some, hiring someone just so they could use it as no one has signed them, and I did not pass it.
okay, okay,
He wanted to wait till the salary.
okay. Fair enough. Liz?
Good to know.
For Area Plan Commission, the Area Plan Commission has adopted the new job descriptions for our department.
Thanks, Ken.
For ours,
Thank you.
Thank you.
they've been completed on the supervising body side versus still in the council.
Okay, okay. All right. Thank you. Yes.
Question, because I know it's going to come up. When department heads are contacting about wanting to see the protocol moving forward, about,
I'm not sure yet. I mean, I this is so new. Let me have a little time to think.
that's what I
Let me
figured.
talk to
I just
Jordan.
wanted to know what to tell people.
Based on that advice that both the commissioners and council approved these, let me coordinate with Jordan, and then we'll come up with an answer for you. Okay. Okay, let's deal with the more mundane task of additional appropriations. Mundane, but equally as important. Bear with me while I
Here, but it's not. It's not.
get everything lined up here. Okay.
I don't have copies of it here.
I was gonna say.
Beginning with the appropriation request from County General. We have at the beginning a series of insurance reimbursement checks, $3,920.55. We got a grant reimbursement that goes back into the commissary fund. A $714 reimbursement check for an auto repair that goes into the general fund. And then another, from the hail damage from the spring storm, another insurance vehicle repair check. This one was a big one, $23,568 for the sheriff's vehicles. All of those go back into the general fund. We have a request to increase the line item for meals for prisoners by $55,000 to accommodate the increase in the cost of the food that's happened during the year. You'll recall that, we make this budget far enough advance that we just didn't anticipate enough inflation, quite frankly. So, 55,000 there. I believe that brings the total for the county general fund to $83,202.80. From the community corrections, from the CTP fund, which, Brett references often in his report, $34,265. This is from the state money for the purchase of a vehicle. And Jan and I had a quick conversation about that particular item beforehand. I don't think technically we have to approve that because it does come from his state budget, but because it's for a county vehicle that will be titled to the county, and, it just seemed like for transparency's sake, we wanted to have that on our roster and approve it. So, new vehicle there for community corrections. Board of Health, 1159 budget, $2,000 for it to create a new line item for vehicle maintenance. And here's the elected officials training fund that we talked about earlier. Here is a request. We did have a couple of office holders that used it, $1,600 for the recorder and the surveyor, who did some training here in the second half of the year. And then we have a series for the benefit of the public. We have various watersheds that the surveyor is responsible for maintaining in the county. Some of those watersheds cross county lines and have drainage acres that are in other counties. And because Clinton County is the primary agency responsible for maintenance, those other counties collect the taxes on our behalf and remit that money to Clinton County. So we have $1,102.43 from the Jackson Lip drain from Carroll County, $1,071 for the McClamrock drain from Boone County, $496.78 for the John Milner drain from Carroll County, $39.52 for the Frank Powell drain from Boone County, $50 for the Margaret Riley drain from Carroll County, and that is all those. Those would be from the spring settlement, so we'll have another batch of those after the fall settlement. That makes the drain maintenance fund total $2,689.44. Community Corrections got another collection from Trex of $82 that we need to appropriate for him to put back into use. And then from Central Dispatch, $31,236.94. You'll recall that earlier in the year, we got a special distribution of income tax dollars. A portion of those are for dedicated to public safety, and of those public safety dollars, we commit a portion of those to Central Dispatch. And so a portion of that money funneled to Renee, and she's asking to spend some of those dollars on the phone position for the new. We've over the last few months, we've put in a fifth position at Dispatch. This would be for all of the phone equipment, telephone equipment for the 911 stuff for in digital for that fifth position. For the Wildcat Solid Waste District, we run the payroll for Wildcat through the county payroll system. And at the end of the year, then, Wildcat reimburses the county for all of the Social Security, the payroll tax deduction, PERF, medical, vision, all of the things that come out, all of the deductions from the payroll. And so this is for that reimbursement for the, I think it's for the year, or at least year to date, $26,787.70. Community Crossings, County Highway Department, we received this year the $1 million grant. Again, keeping our streak intact. I believe that's like 7 years in a row we received the maximum grant. So this is the appropriation of that money for use. $1 million for Community Crossings. And that is the slate of additional appropriations for November. Any questions on any of those?
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion by Jeff to approve.
Second.
I got Mike with the second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. We have a handful of transfers that require our approval as well. A couple of these were, at least one, maybe two, were sent after the original packet was sent, so we'll make sure we catch them all here. $1,000, this is from the clerk's office, $1,000 from election precinct board members to election mechanics. From area plan, $10,000 from the building inspector, which has been a vacant position, to the contract services, because we've been having an independent vendor come in to provide that building inspection service.
Bless you.
Superior Court, a couple of these here in a row that, if you'll recall, we created a position mid-year for the interpreter position that's working upstairs, and we budgeted for it for next year, but we also resolved that this year we were going to try to cover that cost by transfers and moving money around. This is part of that effort. I think this will get us through the end of the year. $5,000 from Superior Court, from extra help to the interpreter position. And then in Circuit Court, $862.50 from overtime to the interpreter position. EMS, $2,000 from paramedic part-time to EMT part-time.
Alan?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Here. This is the other one that got added.
Oh. Okay. Let me do that one. Parkview Home, $1,000 from cooking gas to household, which I assume is household supplies. Yeah, kitchen supplies. Okay. EMS, $2,000 paramedic part-time to EMT part-time, and $2,000 from paramedic program director to EMT part-time. Central Dispatch 911 Fund, $4,000 from the assistant director, which is a vacant position, to overtime. From the regular Central Dispatch budget, $8,000 from group medical to overtime. From the COVID testing grant fund, $18,620 from contractual services to clinic staff and part-time, and then $1,425 from contractual services to Social Security and Medicare. And this relates back to, with the creation of some new positions, we are eliminating some of the contract services, and now they're being done by county employees, and this is moving the money appropriately to cover that. From the lead case management grant fund, $1,000 to contractual services to employ a translator. And there's that part. Okay, that's the last of the transfers for approval for November. Do I have a motion to approve? A motion by Mike to approve those transfers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Todd. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. We have in our packet the monthly financial and budget status report that we always show in the record that we've received from the auditor's office. So I'd entertain a motion for the record that we have done so.
I'd make a motion. I have taken a look.
Yeah, okay, we've received, motion that we've received the monthly.
That's what I meant to
Monthly,
say.
and the monthly financial report and budget
That's
status.
exactly
report.
right.
Yes. I have a motion by Jeff. Do I have a second? I think I saw Joe with the second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That motion carries 6-0. Carol, I believe you have a council report.
I do have a council report. Couple items, let me take off my glasses. Those spreadsheets were really tiny.
They were.
Bert Weaver and I went to the Healthy Communities Annual Meeting on November 1st, and we were presented with an award for the county as Organization of the Year.
Oh.
So I'm bringing this to you. It's for the commissioners and the council, and it's for the great work that we've done in the budgeting of the opioid settlement funds,
Great.
and the fact that we used all the discretionary funds for the projects as well. And the Doug Hunsinger was the keynote speaker that night, and he spoke very highly of Clinton County, that it should be an example for the state. And he mentioned specifically about using those discretionary funds, that the council and the commissioners had the right to use that money for roads or bridges or anything they wanted to, but they chose to use it for the intended purpose originally, for the large portion of the money. So he was very impressed. So I'll pass this down, and then I think Bert's going to bring it back to the commissioners when they meet.
Very nice.
So that was a good thing.
Yeah, thank you.
And the city received this award as well, so it was for the city and the county government. Okay, then my other report has to do with the CMHC, the Community Mental Health Clinic. I sit on their advisory board, and we had another meeting this last week. So I learned some things that I wanted to share with you. They're telling me that they provided 14,437 services in Clinton County between January and the end of October. So I asked what kind of services, because, we're all questioning what they're doing, where they are. And so they said these were meeting people in their homes, doing telehealth appointments, people coming from Clinton County to Kokomo or Tipton to receive services, medication management, and others. So they're telling me that there's 609 individual patients receiving 14,437 services. So that was what the report I got. They're also saying they're going to begin a new program in Frankfurt called Seeking Safety. And Seeking Safety focuses on coping skills, including helping patients attain safety in their relationships, their living area, their behavior, their thinking, those kind of things. But I don't believe this is going to start until midsummer. So I'm questioning that. And then they also indicated that they're going to begin a group therapy this summer, which I was hoping they would have that all along. When they closed their building, we were hoping that they would be doing group therapy all along. They're going to start that in the summer, I believe. And then they also indicated that they've hired a consultant to help them analyze their ability for future partnerships around the state. So I think they're questioning whether they can viably, serve Clinton County, just as we're questioning whether they're the right partner. So we're all questioning. And then Bert and I are planning to meet with them, with their Vice President of Behavioral Health and their director the week after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And so we have a lot of questions. I think it'll be good to do a sit-down face-to-face to either solidify what we believe is happening or that we learn something new.
Yeah.
But hopefully, maybe the consultant will be finished by then and they'll have a better picture. And then I was also given a list of preferred offerings from the CMHC by Brett Barton. I'll pass this out to you. And I've asked Laura Archibald from Healthy Communities and Trinity Hope to provide a list as well, so that when we go to speak with them in person, we can say, these are the things we need in our community, and take them one step at a time, and they can say, yes, no, can't do, can do, whatever. So this is Brett's list. And then, like I say, I'm getting one from Laura before we meet with them.
So have you asked other stakeholders for similar feedback? I mean, was this just sort of the result of a side conversation with
Yes.
Brett that he provided this? Okay.
Carol, did you say 14,000 visits?
No,
14,000
Services.
So that
From
could be.
January to August,
January to October. So
October,
that
okay.
could be as much as a reminder to take their medicine, those
Okay.
kind of things. So I'm assuming that lots of those numbers.
Gotcha.
The list from Brett Barton came to me unrequested.
Oh, okay. Well,
I think
thank you.
I think he intended to bring it today and wasn't here.
Thank you for all of the time that you and Bert are both putting into this. It's really important work,
Yeah, thanks.
and I appreciate the update.
It's a lot of work. It's a tough situation. Their meetings are a little discouraging, to say the least. There were 2 Howard County commissioners in the meeting this last month, which was the first time I've ever seen them there. But I think they're happy with the services they're getting in Howard County, so.
Okay.
I thought I might call them and remind them about their juvenile that was dropped off in Clinton
Yeah.
County.
All right. Any other council reports that may have occurred in the last month? Jeff? ADA.
Jerry will be getting a hold of people and start kind of preliminarily walking through, identifying things to let them know.
Deficiencies? Okay.
We had a meeting with the ADA
Consultant, yeah.
and really Clinton County's coming at the footsteps, because there's not a lot of people that are, we're recognizing the disability. And this building will be after the fact, after we get that building done first and then come over. And so it's a long process. It's not gonna be overnight by any means. We can probably count on years to get everything compliant.
Yeah.
Because we're responsible for everything in the county that has public access.
Well, we're taking a big step with these 2 buildings with our projects, so. You're right, though, it's gonna be a long process. Okay, thank you, Joe. We don't have any commissioners with us, I don't believe, today, so we will not have a commissioner's report. Department heads, any department heads need time with the council? Sheriff Kelly.
I'll try to make it manageable.
And thank you all for your patience. That was a long presentation we had earlier, but I hope you all enjoyed it, too.
Okay. The salary, and going through, and it'll be interesting to see that. So I would like a copy of the breakdowns and see where we're at and where we fall out with other counties. And, my biggest fear is probably being compared to Hamilton County when we don't have that tax base. And, and I know change is something we all, kind of cringe at sometimes. And the old system of comparing to counties that were similar population, similar everything. And if we're getting thrown in with the likes of Hamilton County, Marion County, and other large counties, we definitely, on the sheriff's office end, we are considered a small county, and that's where we're at, and a lot of aspects. So it'll be a lot to take in, and
It makes it tough because those are the jurisdictions that you lose people to, though.
Oh, absolutely.
So-
The biggest thing, and I've said it for a few months, is that, we're fighting for those candidates. And the state police has set a bar that we are not going to be able to attain and compensation to our police officers, because it's unrealistic that we would be able to jump 40% in pay. And and we have felt that. We see the quality of people that are going to that large agency, so. All right, on to what we
Well,
got to get done today.
I'm sorry, Sheriff, let me just address that,
Yes.
because Janet brought her comment up too. The last piece of paper we got was our survey with the people that we judge everybody's salary with, and that's not surprising. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. We want to be within 90%. It's the numbers that are skewing everything are the labor force and going to the private sector. And I think that's what we should be looking at, because that's what all of your comments are always, what you just said,
Right.
basically, is trying to get people from the street in here. And that's the hard numbers, looking at that. But comparing us to the other counties, I don't think that would be a hard paper to hand out. It's the other numbers that are staggering.
Absolutely.
Just to answer, because
Yeah,
I think everybody's kind of thinking, what am I missing out on? And it's like, no, we're not. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. But-
And I
yeah,
think we
yeah.
are. And I agree with you. But just like what Alan said, when you know the amount of money that you're generating, it's going to be over a period of years before we can get to that. And I think we'll still be fine. I think it's a great county. So
Yeah, absolutely.
that's,
Yeah, we're gonna look at it. Yeah, we're gonna.
we got to work on that.
Yeah,
Commissary stipend, commissary resolution, all my questions are going to be, or requests, are regarding the commissary using the funds. We have the banquet coming up in February, and we typically ask at about this time of year for the consideration of $7,500 for that, to move into that, use it for that. We had purchases, and I got a hold of Alan, I think, and for funeral, for Master Trooper Blaine Butler. He's a retired detective that worked with the county sheriff's office for years, and also for Connie Blacker and the Blacker family and her loss. And her son works for us as a detective or a lieutenant. So I appreciate the go-ahead on that, and it was $150 apiece, and I just wanted to remind you that we have to ask you for that. We have a few purchases that we had to do, and it was over the weekend, and it was for Tide, of all things, because detergent, we're having issues with our washing machines, and I think they went to a liquid detergent instead of the powder because it just wasn't dissolving, wasn't working. So there's a minimal purchase there, so I just wanted to let council know that. We had a inmate worker that his glasses fell off his head, and part of it went down the drain into the disposer when they were doing the cleaning. And so we would like to replace his glasses. It won't be extravagant. I don't know the cost, but it's one of those things where he's, basically volunteered and also doing behavior-wise, everything else, the right thing, and as part of the sheriff's office helping in the kitchen, and it lost those glasses. So we'd like to have approval to replace that. And the other approvals are the typical approvals we'd like to see in the resolution are purchasing Fixodent, Gatorade for detoxing inmates on a very regular basis. And, over the weekend, I know that we had at least 3 people come in that were on some type of narcotic that We have, I mean, I don't want to use the word babysit, but you have to watch those folks extra. You have to provide them hydration to keep them and healthy. And there has been a recent death within our connecting counties over the over the weekend of a 19-year-old that had come in on narcotics and then 2 days later passed away. So it's one of those things that it's very, important for us to be able to do that. So those purchases would
Sheriff,
also help.
I don't want to get into too much into the weeds, but I guess anything like the Tide or the Fix-It-In or those kinds of things, because they're directly related to the inmate care, I would think would be authorized by statute and would not require our approval.
I would hope so too, but I don't think they are. I think and it's kind of one of those things I'd rather ask you
Yeah.
and know for
I guess
sure.
I appreciate notifying us, but I'm not sure that we need to
Okay.
to vote on it, unless anybody
I
feels
agree. I've never heard.
it's directly related to the inmates. I think it's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That makes the things a lot clearer. And basically, that's it. And we're getting into the Christmas parade, things like that, and the things that we give out to the community, and $1,500 for that from commissary.
So I think I hear three things that would require council approval. The first one is really a ratification, and the sheriff did reach out to me about the condolence items, and because it was so time sensitive, I said, let's do it, and we'll come to the council to ratify. So that's one item. I guess I would entertain a motion to approve the purchase of the condolence flowers for the two instances that the sheriff referenced.
So moved.
Have Carol with the motion and Joe with the second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. The second would be the promotional items that, for the parade and can you maybe just, people have asked me and I don't know the answer, like what that entails, what those items are, the $1,500, what kind of stuff is that?
It would be, part of it's for the awards process for the deputies and challenge coins. The other part is the handouts for community information, whether it be, the advertisement, things like that for the sheriff's office and the feel-good
Just
things that
agency
people walk
promotional
away
material.
from. Yes.
Agency promotional
Yes,
materials.
agency promotional materials.
Yeah.
And we use that at the different events throughout the community, whether it's trunk or treat, things like that, and we give those to the community.
Okay, so $1,500 request there. I'd entertain a motion there.
So moved.
Got a motion by Todd and a second by Mike for that one. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. And then the last one was the banquet request. We've done this the last, what? Well,
3 or 4
your
years.
administration.
5 years,
Yeah,
4
5
years.
years.
Yeah, your
Yeah.
administration.
Yeah.
So, and it's
I just
similar
said
to where we've always been, $7,500 request for that. For that.
Well,
Go ahead.
Sheriff, do you move that around to different
Venues.
venues? Like the chamber does that kind of, it seems like they kind of hit
We-
everybody and that's all, I
Yes,
just wanted
but
to say, hey.
comfort-wise,
You just kind of,
and sometimes cost-wise, the other
Yeah, no,
venues
that's right.
are a part of the cost. And so when we have a fixed budget, and we usually have it at 51 West, and Dr. Snyder does a fantastic job working with us on that. And, it's kind of, but yes, cost, and we have talked about it, but availability is also the other issues as well.
okay. You made a motion?
Yeah, Joe had a motion to approve, and Jeff's got the second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0 as well. Anything else?
Stop by the sheriff's office, come see the fruits of, the abilities that you guys have provided us with as far as, the fire alarm system, getting that repaired. The glass we're about 60% completed with the glass. It was, I think, around 90-some pieces of glass have been replaced inside the facility. The dual air heat for the technology room has been put up on the roof and is working fantastically. So,
Good.
Please stop by and visit. And I know Mike knows exactly, or Councilman Hensley knows exactly where that place is at. So come by and take a look and, and have a look-see, as it's always open to you. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Sheriff.
Sheriff.
Thank you.
Any other department heads? I think Rodney needed a moment.
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm just here to quickly report out on 2 fiscal grants that actually ended July 31st. I told Alan in an email this morning, we were waiting on an invoice that the state hadn't sent to us yet, was tracking it down. They had decided in the middle of their grant year fiscal grant year that they were going to change the email that we sent those invoices to. However, we did finally get it. We got a little busy with Health First Indiana stuff, but this is still our obligation to report out to you what our fiscal grant usage was and what those amounts were, so. Typically, I get those to you about the middle of
Good.
September or the end of it.
Thank you, Rodney.
Sure.
Way to use it up.
Well, and the only thing I did notice on here was it says unexpended balance for that top one, and it should have been unreimbursed balance. We did actually not spend the 240. I just caught that as I was sitting there looking at, but all of it has been reimbursed. That used to be a grant where they sent us all of it ahead of time and we'd expend it. In this case, they changed it last year to be a bill reimbursable, so I'll make sure to change that terminology for the next report. But again, trying to stay up there in the high percentage of usage of the money.
Yeah,
Better.
you did a good job.
Yes, so,
Great.
all right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ronnie.
Stephen?
First, I would just offer, I'd be failing my team if I didn't bring it up when the longevity pay is mentioned. It is something that I frequently hear about we have been here for 10 years. Why do we make the same as the person that's been here for a month? When my response is all I can offer them is that they get to pick their vacation time first before those, it's just not enough incentive. So I would just leave you guys to ponder on that.
Yeah. Good feedback.
Secondly, I applied for a grant through the Indiana Department of Homeland Security, and I received notification that it was awarded. I don't have the official award letter yet on how much we're going to be receiving, and I don't want to offer that with how much I asked and give you guys false hope. Maybe they give us $100. I don't know. But the way that I applied as a training institution, and so the way it'll break down is we'll be reimbursed per student that is successful through the paramedic program.
Okay.
So,
That's great news.
Great.
Is that a federal grant?
state, yeah.
It's a change. You're always wanting money. Now we're gonna.
Trying to save a little bit.
That'll be helpful.
So,
That'll be helpful. Every little bit helps.
I'll update you guys as soon as I have a number.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Time to go harvest. Anybody else have a non-department heads have any business to come before the council? Any council member have anything before we adjourn? All right, seeing and hearing none, we'll call the meeting adjourned.
That was a marathon.
That was a long one, yeah.
This is another one here, these benefits here, because just from what
That's what I was
Stephen-
looking at.
that what